Alright guys, what's up, how's it going, and welcome to the February 2025 update on the channel. What we're going to be doing first, like usual, is I'll give you guys an update of the portfolio, I'll give you guys an update on returns, we'll give a quick little updates on the markets, and then we'll go into the financing and personal finance and money saving part of our video, as we do that on this channel a lot too. So this is going to be the update for February. As you guys know, I announced last month in the previous update that I'm going to try to do probably one update per month kind of thing, just to do more content on the channel, give you guys more updates, and try to kind of have more regular updates, so to speak, but not have to do too many kind of thing. I think one a month is a pretty good number, and I think a lot of you guys have kind of agreed with me here, and it's very easy. It's not too hard for me to maintain that schedule as well. So I think we're going to go with that. And the format of these videos, like I always mention, is always the same thing. First thing we'll cover here is going to be my own personal account on Wealthsimple. And as you guys know, I'm very transparent on this channel. I like to show you guys everything so you guys can see the process, you guys can understand things. And it just does something when you can see physically, see the way things work. Especially if you're brand new and you're getting started and you haven't experienced things, you haven't seen how this whole process works, really helps you to understand things, and keep the momentum and the motivation going when you can see this kind of stuff. So that's why I still do these videos, even though there's a lot of content on this channel. I'm still doing them every now and then. So anyways, 1 month return in our portfolio. So this is my Wealthsimple accounts. A little quickly here, let's go over the accounts themselves. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. TFSA is $167,000. So this is the main account we've been growing on this channel ever since I first started it. Since the TFSA is now maxed out, I've made a first home savings account of about $9,000. So that's been maxed for last year. Haven't put any money in this year yet. And then we have an RRSP, which is our other account we've been building up, that has about $11,721. We put a little bit more money into that recently just because of tax season. We're putting a little bit of money. I put some money in just to help maximize my taxes, get into a lower tax bracket, get more credits, and get a little bit more money back. So that's one of the big things we've been focusing on there. And that's pretty much all the accounts that I have any money here on Wealthsimple Trade. And then after we go through these accounts, I'll give you guys an update on our total portfolio, which is me and my fiance, like all of our accounts added together. Since they all add up to be quite a bit there in the end. So 1 month return, not much has happened over the past month in our portfolio. On Wealthsimple Trade, sitting pretty flat, negative 0.07%. So pretty boring month, not too much going on there. The past 3 months though, we have experienced a bit of a gain in the market, 3%, which is about 5,781. And just in case you guys are wondering, if you're new, this is total return. So this is taking in consideration dividends as well as stock growth. The vast majority of our portfolio comes from stock growth, however. And we'll talk about dividends and all that in the second part of the video. So if you guys want to see more of that stuff, stay tuned for that. 6 month return is up 10%. That's 10.57%, almost 11%, about $18,000, which is pretty crazy. Ever since the account has been growing, it's just more and more. And you can see that the small percentages, when you do have a big account, it adds up quite a bit. 1 year return, this is year over year. I think it goes from today's current date. Yep. So February 18th, 2024 to February 18th of 2025, which today is current date, which, by the way, you guys might see this video a little bit maybe towards the end of this week or the weekend, or next week. It just kind of depends on when I get it out. So you guys might, the dates are going to be wrong a little bit, so just take that with a grain of salt. But 1 year return on our portfolio is plus 21%. That's $33,000. Absolutely crazy. And that's just from my portfolio, not including all of our accounts. So pretty crazy. And then all time, if you guys want to see the big number, it's 64% return all time. I started investing in Wealthsimple in the beginning of 2019, but I got really serious kind of in the beginning of 2020. So you can see just the consistent putting money in the market, putting the deposits in, and then the portfolio value just growing. And this is actually pretty cool how they've done this. You see the dotted line here is going to be our deposits. So you can see my deposits. There's been, some big jumps. The dips are going to be when I took a little bit of money out for purchases. You see these little dips here. That's when I took some money out to buy some expenses and different things. Or if I was moving money around from one account to the other. I have done that here and there. So that dotted line, but you can consistently see just pretty consistent deposits, right? Just consistently depositing money, putting money in, and then you can see the value here in the green just completely rising as time has gone on. And the past 2 years in the markets have been very good for us. That's where we've seen a huge chunk of growth coming from there. So that's how those accounts have been doing. If you guys want to go inside and see my accounts, all the accounts, all my holdings and everything, there's a link in the description of today's video. It will go to Blossom Social. Blossom Social, you can see all my trades, you can see all my stocks. There's tons of content creators. Pretty much every single content creator that's Canadian based is on that app. And there's lots of American content creators and content on as well. Super cool app. You guys can see all my stocks on my portfolio. I'm just going to scroll down here really quickly. This is my TFSA. So most of my accounts kind of mimic each other to some degree with some small differences here and there. But our two biggest holdings are going to be our two big ETFs. That's VFV for the S&P 500 and then VDY. That's in a nutshell my biggest holdings. Got some individual stocks here and there, but nothing crazy. And most of our portfolios across our different accounts are somewhat resemblance of that. But definitely check out Blossom Social if you guys want to see my stocks. You guys want to know when I buy, sell, and trade. And again, there's tons of content. There's other creators on there. And some cool new exciting news. There is a desktop app coming up soon. So I'm hoping to share that with you guys pretty soon. But it's currently in beta. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but just give you guys a little hint there. And I'm pretty sure they mentioned that a couple times. No release dates, no nothing like that. But there is a desktop app coming out. So stay tuned for that. And here's a quick little update on the dividends that we received for this month. I covered January 2025, and we'll talk more about dividends as we go through here, but just want to give you a quick update on some of the dividends we did receive. It is February 18th at the time of doing this video, like I mentioned before. So the only big dividends we really got are going to be from Dollarama. We did get a small dividend from Dollarama. We got some dividends from our covered call ETFs, that's HYLD and HDIV. HYLD giving us $139, nice little dividend there. HDIV giving us $26, and then VDY gave us their dividends. If you guys see multiple dividends, these are just from different accounts. Wealthsimple will tell you the account here, so TFSA dividend, RSP, etc. So it's about $140, $150 in total. And then we got a dividend from FTN. So if you want to add that up, that's probably about, for my accounts, we'll say about like $300-$400 or so, give or take. And then my fiance's accounts as well. And if we scroll over to Wealthica is another app that I use to basically track all our accounts, put everything together, it takes everything, averages it out, and it gives you a nice bird's eye view. Because one thing that does happen as you invest more and you maximize different accounts, or if you have a partner and you start to put your finances together and all that kind of stuff, you start to get a lot of different accounts and it becomes very tricky to track things. And I think one of the big things a lot of people fail to do, especially as they get older, is to really kind of get a good look at their total investments or net worth. Like get an actual real picture look at everything you got. And I think that's an important thing to do. And a lot of people are really surprised when they kind of put everything together and they're like, oh, wow, so it's definitely good to know and be aware of what you really do have. And it makes managing things a lot easier. So all of our accounts here put together, I have about $246,000 in total. And here's the different stocks. Once again, guys, you guys can pause this video or you guys can check it out on Blossom, whatever you guys want to do. And this will show you all the different tickers, the ETFs we have. You can see the total return here on the screen. I don't know if I can make this any bigger for you guys. I'll zoom in a little bit. Maybe this looks a little bit better. So you guys can see the total returns. You can see the book values, quantities, dollar amounts, all those different things here. Everything for you guys to see. Basically, we'll go through this really quickly since it's kind of the same thing. But our biggest holdings are going to be at the top. Our biggest holding that we hold by far is the S&P 500. We like ETFs. I've done a lot of different types of investing. And, things are always changing. Like we might change our investments as our money grows. In fact, we most likely will. But since we're still in the growing stage, we're very much focused on growth. And the U.S. markets seem to be the best vehicles for getting that, for the most part. But of course, it's important to diversify. It's important to try different things. And as our account does grow, our accounts do grow, we probably will do more diversification, more international diversification, but we're not quite there yet. We do have quite a bit of diversification in terms of North America, but we do want to kind of get a little bit more international exposure to some degree as our accounts grow. But right now we've kind of been doing what we've been doing and it's been working out pretty well. So that's what we're going to be focusing on. So again, S&P 500 represents a big significant chunk of our portfolios, about 100 grand there, so that's quite a bit, and it's been our top performing stock. I don't think that's really surprising. The US markets have been on a tear the past couple years, so I don't know what's going to happen this year, if we're going to have a good year, bad year, medium year, whatever year. but they've been consistently doing well, and a total return is about $43,000, giving us a gain of $43,000 and 43% return. VDY is our second biggest one, just under $50,000. This is our Canadian market ETF, up about 34%. That's about $16,000. Our covered call ETFs have performed quite well. HYLD being the American-based one, HDIV being the Canadian one, and we have FTN, our split share corp, and that one's done quite well, is quite good as well. These ones are just here for dividends. They're here for to get more distributions, and over time, as our portfolio grows, we will be probably putting a little bit more money in these type of funds or in dividend funds, as we do plan on using the dividends over time to benefit our lives, to give us more income coming in. And we'll talk about more of that later on in the video, as you guys will see in the second part of this video. We have Couche-Tard, TD, CNR, Dollarama, TELUS, and CNQ as our individual stocks. We'll be trimming up some of these, I think, going into this year, but I mean, again, I'm not too focused on that. I got a few other things going on right now. So we've kind of, whenever you don't know what to do, just keep it simple, right? ETFs are always going to be your friend. So that's kind of what we've been focusing on. In terms of the Canadian stocks, the individual ones, I don't really know what's going to happen with stocks like TELUS, CNQ, or the consumer defensive stocks like Dollarama, Couche-Tard, all those, Loblaw, all those different ones. Nobody knows what's going to happen with those ones. They're kind of good, steady stocks, but we're always going to hold them, probably have a little bit of money in them. I might move some of the stuff around. I'm kind of debating to see. But for now, I'm just focusing on the ETFs because it's a simple way to do it, and I highly recommend you guys do the same. So once again, here's everything for you guys to see. You guys can pause the video. You can look at it. Check it out on Blossom if you guys want. And let's go on to the second part of the video. All right, guys, what's up? How's it going? Welcome to the living off our dividends kind of case study part of the series of these videos. So what I basically do is we also do lots of budgeting and money saving and frugal saving tips on this channel. It's one of the big reasons how we're able to save up some money and grow our portfolio. Everybody focuses, when it comes to investing, everybody focuses on stocks and all that kind of stuff, which is obviously very important. But one of the big things that's going to grow your money faster than anything else is your ability to save money and put money into your portfolio. It's one of the key principles. So this part of the video, we're going to go over some of that stuff here. So I have a spreadsheet here where basically our goal is to get our dividends and our stocks to basically pay for all of our expenses. That's kind of the idea here, and we kind of are trying to use it over time. We don't spend any of our money from our dividends. We just reinvest them. But the idea is to, as that money grows, we can kind of start to see our progress. And again, eventually at some point in time, we will use this money. Or if we ever did need to use it, we have it as a backup, right? For emergencies or different things coming up. But it's a cool way to kind of track your progress and see how things are growing, because, as you invest your money, it can get a little bit stale and boring over time. And, you want to keep the motivation, you want to keep things going. So this is kind of how we do things. And the cool thing about doing this whole thing is it helps you budget and track things. So if you guys don't have to do something super hardcore like this, but it does help to kind of track things and budget things and get your budget as low as possible, so that you can start to see the money you make on a regular basis really start to pay for your expenses and stuff. Now, of course, you could use your stock growth, the stock appreciation, because if you look at our portfolio, we make the bulk of our money from stock growth, but it's hard to track it. And unless you actually sell the stock, you don't get the money, right? So dividends, they're consistent. You get them, every single month or every quarter, right? We kind of do a 3-month average and use that number. But we're going to go through this here really quickly, guys. I'll explain all these numbers and all these colors and different things because I've decided to kind of focus much more on budgeting and give you guys a clear, transparent view of our situation, and also kind of talk about how everybody's situation is going to be a little bit different. Like some people's situations, you're going to see here, everybody's situation is different. So it's always going to be unique. And you guys got to remember that. Everybody's going to have different things going on, different responsibilities, different point of your life, right? So it's all important to keep that in mind here. And you guys can get a good view of kind of how things have been for me and whatnot, and how I've been able to use that to my advantage, so to speak. And also, we're going to go through it really quickly. So on the top left here, these numbers are not 100% for sure. They're just kind of rough estimates. So you could plus or minus, depending on some things like our income here. I've decided to share with you guys our monthly income. You could plus or minus this a couple $100 or give or take. This is just averages. And because I do, me and my partner, we both work full-time jobs. I do work from home, right? So my income kind of fluctuates a little bit. It's hard to track. Some months make a lot more than others. It just depends on, the biggest factor for me is depends on different programs you're a part of, depends on the views on the YouTube videos I do, depends on how many videos I do, right? So there's lots of different things here, and depends if it's the busy season or whatnot. So we did some averages here. One important thing to note, this monthly income does not include our investments. So no dividends here, no growth. This is just strictly working income that we make. And this is our take home. So at the end of the day, we take home this much. This is like after tax. So important to take note. And it's not like, this is just the money we get off a paycheck. So it's not we're not taking our taxes into consideration or any tax benefits or anything like that. It's just strict income that we're taking home. So we tallied it up. I take my girlfriend, my fiance, we took her income, we added mine together, and on average we're making around $6,000. Again, you could plus minus that a couple $100, but that's how much we take home at the end of the day. So we both work full time, and that's probably the biggest thing that allows us to make as much money as we make. If one of us didn't work, or if one of us worked part time, it would significantly drop it, because we make roughly the same income. There's a little bit of difference, but we I make a little bit more income, especially because I do work from home part time kind of thing. But not that much more. It's pretty even. It's pretty close. So both of us contributing, working full time, being able to work full time, definitely helps out there. Next thing we have here is the dividend income. So this is the 3-month average. If we take 3 months, we add up our monthly dividends and then we divide it by 3. Right, 3 months. Add up the total, divided by 3 gives you your 3-month average per month. We have $645. So we're making about $645 on average from our dividends. Once again, we get the big quarterly payment because most of our stocks are in the S&P 500. We get that big juicy quarterly payment. Also, some of our individual stocks will pay that quarterly payment. And then we have the monthly ETFs and different things and whatnot that just kind of add up there as well. So we don't actually get $645 per month. It's more like we get like $400, $500 or $400, and then we get like $800, $900 on the big month where we get that quarterly one. So that brings up the average. So $645 on average. And then here on the left side is going to be our monthly costs. So I've kind of been coding this the last couple days, and I'll explain what this means. So our total expenses here on the right side is going to be $2,329. So this is, once again, rough estimate. This isn't everything. It's just kind of like a good educated guess. Some months it's a little bit more, some months it's a little bit less, but this is basically, I would say, what our base is. Minimal, we're paying at least this much money. Sometimes it's a little bit more depending on, again, on what we do, what comes up, different things that happen, etc., etc. So $2,329 in total expenses minimum that we pay between the two of us. And then this green number is how much our dividends are paying off those expenses. So you can see it's a long ways to go, especially with how expensive things are nowadays. But of course, when you take this number here, this is kind of like a rough number of what we're spending, minimal. Again, you could add like a couple $100 plus minus, probably not minus because this is the minimum. So some months we might pay like $2,500, $2,600, just depends on the month, give or take, right? Maybe it'd be like $3,000 if a big major expense happens. So you got to keep that in mind. But you would take this number, the monthly income, 5,806, and subtract it by this number, and you'd get a rough estimate of your disposable income. Estimate. It's going to vary month by month. So the $435 is how much our dividends are, quote unquote, paying off our expenses. So the green numbers are going to be the things that we're currently paying for, that our dividends are covering if we were to use them, and the red ones are the work we have to do. So like if we want our dividends to eventually pay for our groceries or rent, we obviously have some work to do because $435 or $645, which is our max, it's not going to cover everything, right? So we've been kind of choosing some little things here to kind of build it up. So we got some movies we like to watch movies. We'll sometimes order them online. I'll look up top rated movies. Sometimes I'll go to the thrift store. We'll buy cheap movies. Sometimes we'll watch Netflix, etc. So we like movies. Also, a good thing to do is that you can actually go online, look up movies, and you can actually find a lot of free movies online too, especially like international movies if you like to watch. One of the shows that we got recommended to watch was an international show, and they actually don't have any English DVDs, but they actually have it on YouTube. So you can find cool things like that and whatnot. So we got movies for the month. The next thing was our coffee tea budget. We're not buying any coffee tea for a while, so we're going to green. I think I'm going to green the columns that are paid for, that we don't have to worry about, because we have lots of coffee and tea, so we won't be. We have a whole cupboard full of the stuff There's so much coffee and tea that we've accumulated over the years. So actually the last year, so a couple months, we've been buying stuff, and I buy stuff on sale, so we always stock up and whatnot. So no coffee and tea. We're good for that for a little while, so that's covered. Next up is our grocery budget. So we've estimated we probably spend, give or take, on just raw groceries that we go to the grocery store and we shop for, probably about $500 a month, give or take. Again, might be a little bit more some months, might be a little bit less. We currently have $75 of our dividends that can cover that. So this is probably going to be one of the things we're going to start focusing in on bringing up a little bit more. And so what we did is we went to the store, we pretended to use $75 worth. Here's what $75 worth bought us for groceries. So again, the idea is eventually at some point in time, our dividends will be able to pay for our grocery budget, which is about $500. I'd say give or take between the two of us. We're pretty good shoppers, pretty good at buying cheap stuff. We cook a lot of our own meals. We're really good at like making, typically what we will do is we'll make like bulk meals, and then we'll freeze it, we'll put it in the fridge and have lunches. And it just, learning how to cook is such a good skill, not only for like your health. It's fun, you get to try new things, and you save a ton of money when you learn how to cook, especially when you learn how to like, this is on sale, you buy it in bulk, you stock up, and then you can make these big meals. Like I like simple, like one pot meals, one easy dishes that will make you like a bunch of chili, or like a stir fry, or like a casserole, or anything like that, soups and stuff like that you can just get multiple meals from, and just stick it on a pot and heat it up, stick it in the freezer, whatever. It's super easy to do, and it just makes things super simple. So that was the grocery budget. This is one of the things, probably with the extra free money we have next month, maybe we'll add like another $50 or $100 to our grocery budget and start to get those groceries paid for. Next up, we have the CDs. Again, I collect CDs, albums. I might at some point in time start collecting vinyls and stuff like that. I love music, so I like CDs. I like to own things. I'm not a big fan of like streaming services. I do use them, but I like the fact to be able to own things, because when you're doing things online, streaming services, or you're watching Netflix, it's really frustrating when like you watch a good show or you watch a movie and then you want to watch it and it's gone. So like I always like having some physical copy that I can, if I ever want to listen to that band, or 10 years, 5 years ago from now, and that great show I loved, you can't watch it anymore because you can't find it. So I always like to own physical copies of things, and it's cool to collect things and whatnot. So sometimes we'll go to the thrift store, we'll buy CDs. Sometimes I order them online, that kind of stuff. But we have a CD budget, a music budget. And I do listen to Spotify. I will look up albums and listen to them on Spotify. Again, I just like to collect things, so it's kind of like that. Next up we have is Netflix. So we have our Netflix paid for, so we can green that out. Netflix is a great way to watch movies and TV shows. I know it did increase in price, so I don't think it's $69. I got an email a while back. I think it's like $7.50 or $8. But we have the basic version with ads. Highly recommend that if you want to save money. And because we only use it, we don't have to pay for multiple TVs and all that. So $7-8, whatever it is now, I don't know. Pretty sweet deal to watch TV shows and watch whatever you want. Going down here, I added some new expenses here. So insurance, this is what we're paying for car and house insurance. That's the only insurance we pay. As I mentioned in my last video, we finally bought a vehicle. Insurance for that vehicle is $250, hoping to get that down over the next couple years or so. And then our renter's insurance is about $20 a month, give or take. So that's pretty cheap. So our renter insurance is covered for with our dividends, but we're currently not paying for that. So this is going to be something we're going to be paying for in the future. We're going to be focusing on is getting those dividends up to help pay for our insurance and stuff, because it's not cheap. But I'm also hoping to get this number as low as possible. And I got some tips and tricks I'm going to talk to you guys about, that you can do to decrease your car insurance. One tip I'm going to say really quickly, if you guys are shopping for a vehicle, is do your research. You can go online, you look up categories, calculators and spreadsheets that show you which vehicles have insurance and high, because if you can buy, it's worth it paying a little bit extra money for a more expensive vehicle to get cheaper insurance. And that's we kind of lucked out in a sense. Where the car that we bought a Honda Accord. It's actually the year and the model we got is significantly cheaper than buying like a brand new one, or buying like a Honda Civic, because like the more popular a vehicle is, the more accidents, the more theft, the more, so you have more claims, which is going to make things more expensive. I mean, and also there's safety factors and stuff too, but you do your research online, punch it into a calculator and check it out, because, we were going to buy a couple other vehicles, like looking at buying a new vehicle, and not only were the price of the new vehicle like going to double the cost of the car itself, but also the insurance was like an extra, almost like double too. So like do your research on that, it makes a big difference. Next up we have here is our rent. So we pay $920, about $1,000 or so to rent our 2-bedroom apartment that we lived in. A lot of people are going to look at that and be like, holy crap, that's cheap. And it is. It's definitely cheap for the current market. And the reason why it's so cheap is because we lived here for almost 10 years now. So we locked in the cheap rate a long time ago and we just stayed here. And it's been an interesting, we're grateful for the fact that we have cheap rent. And that's been one of the big things that has allowed us to save up money, is living in the same place. We were thinking about moving a couple years ago, and we keep thinking about it every single year, but with how expensive rents are and rent prices are right now, it's really tough to justify paying almost double the price for something that's a little bit bigger, a little bit better. So we are looking at potentially in the future getting a bigger place or getting a nicer place or renting a house and eventually buying a house down the line. But again, house prices are also really expensive too. So we have to do this in a smart way. If the longest we can kind of benefit from this cheap rent, it's going to help us out, right? Because if we can save, like, I know for a fact, if we went and rented a place of the same value in today's market, we'd probably pay an extra like $500 a month. And then if we wanted like a bigger place or a house, like a decently sized 2-bedroom apartment for where we live, or if you wanted like a small house, we'd probably pay at least $2,000, which is a huge chunk of extra money that you're spending, right? So we're trying to figure this out and do this in a good way. And we probably will rent a better place relatively soon. But, the longest you can do that, or if you're like, the alternative is like when I was younger, before we had this place, is I would roommate with people. So, getting a roommate, cutting that cost down, longer you can do that, rent's probably going to be one of the, or your mortgage, rent, whatever your expenses are for living, is probably going to be one of the biggest expenses you pay right now in Canada. Seems to be the case. So the longest you can get that cheaper, or if you can get it cheaper to just get ahead, that's going to benefit you the most. But of course, we have a pretty sweet deal. So we're just taking advantage of that. But, we are looking to eventually grow that. So we put $100 of our dividends, quote unquote, like I said before, is covering that. So this is going to be probably one of the biggest, longest things, the last thing for us to max out, right? The last thing for all our biggest expense to pay for. Next up we have is gas. We got our vehicle. I don't drive that often. I live about 5 minutes away from work. If I drive, maybe 3 minutes. So I'm super close to work. My girlfriend, my fiance, walks to work. She's pretty close. It's about a 5-10 minute walk. And so we don't use our vehicle that much, especially in the winter time. So we had to fill up our vehicle once since we got it in the last month, and that was about $50 we paid to fill it up, about 3/4. And so give or take. Now again, when springtime comes around, we'll probably be using the vehicle more often, or if we're going to be traveling once the weather's nicer. So we can estimate we'll probably spend around $50 to $100 per month, maybe on average. But that number is going to go up and down depending on things. But one of the big things you can do is just drive your vehicle less, spend less money on gas. But again, situation is going to be dependent, because if you have to drive to go to work, or you have to drive because you live somewhere far away out of town or something, like, these are all these things that change everybody's situation. So although you can control them to some degree, it might be worth the trade-off to pay the extra money. It's all up to you guys, right, to decide. But if you can reduce these expenses as much as possible, that's what keeps your bills low. Next up we have is pet expenses. We have 1 cat. We've estimated, give or take, it's about $100 a month for the cat food, the cat litter, maybe a couple toys, treats, whatever. Give or take, maybe it's a little bit more. I don't know. But it's around $100 or so, give or take. And I think that's, if you're going to have a dog, you could probably estimate about the same, depending on food is expensive and it has gone up. So it depends on things. I know when we had 2 cats, we were probably paying about close to double that. So it does add up, right? And it depends on what you're giving your pets for food and stuff. We give them decent quality food. We kind of give a mix. But yeah, it's probably about $100, give or take. Next up we have is internet. We pay about $100 for internet. Haven't shopped around for internet for a while, but we might eventually. Kind of move down here a little bit quicker. Phone bills, we're currently paying, our phone bills are covered by our dividends in case we need them. We have some pretty cheap phone bills. We use Public Mobile. Check them out if you guys want. They have some of the cheapest plans you can get. And yeah, you can get like unlimited texting, unlimited calling. Data, I don't really care about. I don't use data that much. Speed, I don't really care about. I think I have I don't even know what network I use. I think, to me it doesn't matter. I don't really use my phone that much anyways. So if you can, knock off those things, you can get a cheaper phone bill. But definitely look around, shop around. I think phone plans are starting to come down. Going downwards, we have some new ones I added in here. So we have a restaurant budget. This is one that we're kind of estimating. We're kind of looking at, I don't know how much we spend. We don't go out that much, but we do. Depends on the month. Last month we went out a lot. This month we haven't. So it does depend on what's going on. You know, if your friends come and visit you or something like that or whatever, you might go out a little bit more some months. But we estimate maybe like $100 to $200 just because of the fact that it's so expensive to eat out. Like just going out like once or twice can really, like, depending on where you go, can really bump this up, right? So we're using about $50. I think that's pretty reasonable to pretend, right? Like maybe that's a trip to a small shop or a go for coffee a couple times or something, whatever it is, right? Like you guys can decide. Going out for fancy dinner or a nice place, yeah, it's probably not good for two people, probably not. But we'll get there. We'll get that to that $200 range. And again, what this does is it kind of reminds you of your budgets, and you try to play within them, right? Next, going down here, we got some random expenses. We have Adobe. Adobe I used to edit videos back when I was doing the YouTube channel more full time. This was kind of more worth it. I don't use it that much. I don't know, but I don't really feel like learning how to use another software program. So I don't know. We'll kind of see on that one. This is definitely an expense I could reduce if I was to look into it, but we'll see. Next up we have is UFC Fight Pass. If you guys like fighting MMA, I do. I like to watch it. Big fan. I grew up on UFC and stuff like that, watching it way back in the day when it was popular. $10 a month. I always just watch the old ones. A lot of them get uploaded the next day after the pay-per-views, so it's a great way to. What I do is I'll put it on when I'm exercising or I'm kind of bored or whatever like that. I'll watch them, or if there's a big fight or something. But way cheaper than buying pay-per-views. $10 a month. You can't go wrong with it. It's a sweet deal. And tons of content on there. Next up we have is Wealthsimple, and then my bank service charge. So Wealthsimple is a tracking tool that I use. You guys see me using it on my videos. We pay $13 a month. I think it's pretty fair. Again, all these little subscription services is up to you guys to decide. The small little ones aren't too bad, but be careful because they do add up, right? Like if you were to pay like $20-$30 for Netflix, then you had like $10-$20 here, and then $20-$30 here, it starts to add up. So just be careful with them. I don't think they're too bad as long as they give you value and they're on the cheaper side, right? So Wealthsimple is okay. You could cut that if you didn't want it, but I like it. I like to use it for tracking, and I use it for my YouTube channel as well. Bank service charge, $17. This one, kind of expensive. I've been thinking about shopping around for like an online bank. You can use lots of online banks, but it is nice to have a local bank. So this is something I know I could cheap out on, but to some degree, it is important, I think, to have a local bank. It is better to deal with things, but maybe you guys can give some recommendations if you guys want. Basically, I have a local bank that we use for our finances if we need them, and then my fiance has an online bank. So that way we have a bit of both worlds. She saves money by not having to pay extra money, but if we need local services, or if we need money right away, or if I lose my debit cards or something gets stolen or lost, you can get that fixed right away if you have a local one. So yeah, and the local ones also sometimes will have better services. So maybe we'll explore getting better rates going to our credit union. I don't know. Maybe this is something we'll check out in the future. But yeah, that is something that you guys can cut out if you want. I'm not too sure about it. We'll just kind of see how things go. But here's a quick, like I said, bird's eye view. This doesn't include everything that we spend on. Again, there's going to be some things that you miss, some things that you spend spontaneously. But this is a bit of a rough view about our expenses. So hopefully you guys got some benefit from this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Once again, the goal is to kind of pretend to get this dividend income up as much as we can. And then along the way, we can see our growth. We can see our progress. We can see us like leveling up and checking things off here, right? Checking off, our phone bills are covered now, and trying to keep things cheap and trying to get these things paid off. And that's going to be the goal as time goes on. So let me know what you guys think of that. I hope you guys got some value from that. And yeah, give me your thoughts and let me know what you guys think. And like I said before, everybody's situation is going to be different. Just try your best to use what you can to your advantage and work on things. And, there's nothing wrong with paying more or less for something if it gives you value, or yeah, if you enjoy it. You guys decide, right? But just understand that what it will do, like if you're going to be having to have a long commute to work or something like that, you're going to pay more for gas or not, and different things like that, right? If you're going to buy a car that's going to cost you more for insurance, you're going to be paying more. Again, up to you guys to decide on if it's worth it or not. But anyways, guys, hope you guys enjoyed that. Let's move on to the next section of the video. Alright guys, that's it for today's video, so hope you guys enjoyed it. Like usual, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Smash the like button and subscribe to the channel if you guys want to see more videos. Take care, and I'll see you guys next month.